to share with you a little secret. Men in television are so much worse than women ever could imagine being. Like I've always had this theory, women are actually pretty chill. It's the guys that you got to watch out for. And in this case, you got a couple of little guys over there at ABC that are apparently kind of duking it out because, well, they're jealous of each other. They're jealous. And now that Trump's in there, it's going to make it so much harder because there's only so much oxygen, there's only so much room, and there's only so much money. And you see Georgie boy, George Stephanopoulos, well, he lost 16 million of Disney's moolah to Donald Trump, both to the Trump library and, of course, to Trump's lawyers. And so he's not exactly high on the Disney list, right? If I'm Bob Iger right now, CEO of Disney, and I'm looking around at my most favorite nation, it's not going to be George Stephanopoulos. No. That's just not happening. David Muir, he's a little bit more under the radar, but you remember David Muir. He was the one who was very, very careful about making sure he corrected Donald Trump in that ABC News debate. Remember, it was David and his co-host that nobody had ever seen before named Lindsay, and they were both there ganging up alongside Kamala Harris against Trump. Well, apparently George is very jealous of David. Because like I said, there's nothing like men in television. Woo. Okay, here we go.
America great again. It's a very simple phrase. Make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
He does a good job at seeming very, very official. Very, very, well, that is not what we've heard. That is not what the city manager is telling us. Anyway, that's the guy that George Stephanopoulos is reportedly so jealous of. That's the guy that allegedly, per this, Daily Mail report, along with some newsletter writer that actually has some decent sourcing when it comes to gossip. They're saying that apparently when the studio got redone and David got a bigger dressing room for Good Morning America or for World News Tonight, that George had to have a similar dressing room. I mean, it goes on and on. It's actually kind of funny. So here's the headline. 2 of ABC's top stars at war as historic tension is revealed. In other words, they've always hated each other. Or rather, George has always hated David. He's, for one thing, a lot taller and better looking. And, for whatever reason, was getting some of those plum jobs that Georgie wanted. And so he didn't like that David was getting all these big sort of political headlining jobs. For example, doing things like hosting the debate. So according to the article, it's been just all kinds of headaches for the network's bosses. Viewers may notice that for the last few years, Stephanopoulos, by the way, who's like a political animal, let's be very clear, he started his career as the flack for Clinton. He was like the KJP for the Clinton White House. And now somehow is pretending to masquerade as a journalist. Well, he's not even really masquerading that well, but he is pretending somehow badly that he is a journalist, and it cost him and his network $16 million. Anyway, they go on to say Stephanopoulos has been absent during politics-focused special coverage, such as election night, because those duties are now falling squarely to David Muir, the World News Tonight guy. The 2 news anchors, Daily Mail writes, have reportedly had a professional rivalry for years, which widened when Joe Biden's advisors chose Stephanopoulos to conduct the first ever interview with the president following his disastrous debate performance. Yeah, because David really wanted to do that one, right? The U.S. Sun reported in September that as the anchors moved into their new studio in New York City, Stephanopoulos wanted a dressing room as big as rival David Muir's space. How did I start this whole thing? There's nothing like men in television. Oh my gosh. I've always wondered why that is. Like, what is, how is it? I guess you've got these big egos and these little people. Well, earlier this year, Daily Mail reported on a Radar Online story. Actually, we reported on that too, as well as these other publications, about this alleged feud that was going on, because there's this behind the scenes tension. And now it's like bubbling up and up and up. So Georgie had his contract coming up around 2021, and he wasn't going to renew because he felt like David was getting too much. And so Bob Iger had to fly out and like do the whole deal himself. He took it all on. And now I just wonder if he's really thinking that was all worth it. Because this was the guy who was going on and on about how you had to remember just exactly like everybody else, right? Whoopi Goldberg, oh, you're going to vote for Hitler if you vote for Trump. He was saying, oh, the stakes are so damn high 2 days before the election. No, the stakes weren't that high well, they were high for America in terms of inflation being put to bed, in terms of the border finally getting addressed, etc. But really, remember, they were high for George, because George was getting sued, and ABC News and Disney were getting sued by Trump. So here he was saying this.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. It is almost over. What comes next is anyone's guess. What we do know is this: no election since the Civil War has posed such a test of our constitutional system. Whether to accept election results and the peaceful transfer of power has never been on the ballot like this. The stakes in this election are as high as it gets. The differences between the candidates are as stark as it gets. And as we emerge from the final weekend, the polls suggest that this election is as close as it gets.
Our thanks to our friends over at Newsbusters for giving us that one. So the stakes were really, really high, but they were mainly really high, not just for America and everyday Americans, but also for George in a very personal way, because, it looked like he or his network was going to have to settle. He was really, really angry when they settled, but so be it. So there's all this tension, right, that's going on. In the meantime, over on that morning show that we all love to hate, The View, Whoopi Goldberg, who constantly, every time she said Donald Trump's name, would then spit on the floor. You remember,
Listen,
right?
take him seriously and take him literally.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that we have to. I think it would be remiss of us to not say Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes.
He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And you can't refute anything with him, because he just, when I say him, I mean
he rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just.
But can I mention one thing? Because Trump is out there.
Okay. So that's like her signature move, all right? She just has to spit every time she says his name, when she says his name, because often she just actually refers to him as you-know-who. So ABC, you see, has a problem. ABC is broadcast over publicly owned airwaves, which is why the new head of the FCC, Brendan Carr, just the other day sent a nice, nasty little letter to one Bob Iger, reminding him of the lack of trust that people have in news networks nowadays. And in that letter, he was sort of softly, gently reminding him that, you know what, I can pull the plug on you pretty darn easily, because guess what? You're all over these airwaves. And in order for all of these little local affiliates around the country to have their licenses, their ABC licenses, they got to get it from me. And I know historically the FCC hasn't been that out in front of this stuff, but guess what? There's a new sheriff in town by way of Donald Trump, and there's a new head of the FCC by way of me, Brendan Carter. He was effectively saying, I'm paraphrasing for fun, but you get the idea here. So ABC is in a bad spot, and there's lots of talk of layoffs. There's lots of talk of headcount reduction. I mean, layoffs, whatever you want to call it. And there's talk that anchors are going to have to take smaller salaries. Now, it also has been reported that George just renewed, but I would be cautious on that renewal. We don't know all the details. We don't know as he's locked in, and you don't know how much that was of Disney just trying to say, okay, well, we'll lock him up for the next 3 years, maybe in a pay-to-play type scenario. So they have all the authority. They can get rid of him if they want and say, see ya. Anyway, it's sort of amazing to watch.